This is Suburban On Air and Cohen in the City. Here is Mike Cohen.
Here's a question for you. How many Jewish women have been ambassador to the United Arab Emirates? Let me give you a hint. More humans have been to the moon. People often ask me, how did you get there? How did you do it? How did you become an ambassador? Considering that I started my career as a criminal psychologist, working in the big house, the odds weren't exactly in my favor. But I'm here to tell you that the odds don't matter, that you can achieve seemingly impossible things with the right tools, with the right strategies, and with the right mindset. I didn't become an ambassador overnight or by fluke.
Well, it's Mike Cohen sitting here on a beautiful May afternoon with Ambassador Marcy Grossman. We're in Westmount right now, where Marcy was visiting her dad, and I'm so thrilled to meet Marcy in person because Marcy, it was 20 years ago that I did my first interview with you when you were in the consulate in Miami, but we never actually met in person.
No, but it's like we've known each other a lifetime at the same time.
It really is, especially thanks to your cousin. A shout out to your cousin.
Cats,
that's it.
aunt.
Freda Cats, a great knitting store. Jeanette's, exactly. So, Marcy, tell us about your career as a diplomat. You had lots of great stops.
Right. Well, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a criminal psychologist by training. I spent the first 10 years in federal corrections, and then I wanted to do something international, and I ended up in the Department of Foreign Affairs by sheer luck and chance. And that's when I realized I didn't want to go back to jail. And I converted that into a career in the Foreign Service. I did 4 postings in the U.S., so Dallas, Miami, when we met, was my first consul general job.
Yeah.
I went to Los Angeles, and then I finished my U.S. tour in Denver, Colorado. I went back to Ottawa for some brainwashing, and after 2 years, I went out as consul general in Dubai, and then got a surprise promotion to Canada's ambassador to the UAE in Abu Dhabi, just down the road.
So what was it like not only being a Jewish ambassador in this huge embassy, but not only a female ambassador, but a Jewish ambassador in the United Arab Emirates?
Well, it was a little bit difficult to get my head around it. I thought it was a pretty bold move that my country would want to send a Jewish woman to the Arabian Gulf. And I thought it was an even bolder move that the UAE actually wanted to receive me and did so welcoming. But it was great. It allowed me to really use my Canada platform to talk about things that really inspire me, like diversity, inclusion, women's empowerment. And after the Abraham Accords, I got to lean into my Jewish values as well, and it was just a perfect combination.
And you also were involved with the Afghanistan crisis.
Yes, my office was the regional immigration office for that part of the world, and we were responsible for moving thousands of Afghans in the crisis of the Taliban takeover out of Afghanistan directly to the UAE and to other ports in Eastern Europe and also in Pakistan, and getting them to Canada eventually.
I've always wanted to ask an ambassador, first of all, how many people work in the embassy, and what's a day-to-day work like that? It must be overwhelming.
It's a big responsibility. In Abu Dhabi, we were about 100 or 120 folks. We had a large immigration program, consular, of course. That's helping our Canadians who are traveling and working abroad. Never a dull moment, never the same 2 days. But yeah, it's always an adventure to learn a new culture wherever you are and to learn your new staff. At the end of the day, it's a big leadership responsibility. It's like being CEO of a small organization, except on top of everything else, you have a very big responsibility towards the people that work for you and their families, because you are representing the country in a foreign country.
So you spent 33 years in total working in the public service, 22 years as a diplomat.
That's true, yes.
So what made you decide that it was time to move on? Because you're now retired as a diplomat.
Retired from the public service. I would say that after my experience in the UAE, a couple of things happened. First of all, it was after COVID, so I found that a very draining experience to be a Canadian leader abroad. So I was tired. But I also at the same time felt that I had met my ultimate, I don't want to say potential, but ambition. Now, I always thought I wanted to be Canada's ambassador to Israel because I was very passionate about being part of peace in the Middle East. Now that was not Bashert. Hashem had a different plan for
Yeah.
me. But I did end up being Canada's Jewish female ambassador to the United Arab Emirates during the Abraham Accords, which allowed me really to fulfill
Yeah.
that desire and that purpose in a very unexpected place. And after that, I thought there was nothing that was really going to top that. And I decided to leave while I was still feeling fresh and relatively young, and had other projects I wanted to pursue outside the scope of government.
So you're in Montreal now. You spoke at the Shar Shemayim.
I did.
What was that? What was that all about?
Oh, it was great. It was a day of learning at the Shar. Yesterday I kicked off a keynote called Seeds of Hope in the Middle East. And it was not an easy speech to write, I have to say. I appreciated that they gave me that homework because I myself have been looking for hope in the Middle East over the last few months. But it turned out great. It was a 45-minute keynote, and I talked about my experience in the UAE and how peace will bloom in some of the most unexpected places. And the Jewish community is resilient and can adapt, and no matter what the conditions are. So we need to have hope, and we need to have faith, and we need to continue carrying on.
So that's your career. You now live in Calgary and London, England,
That is
and your
correct.
career now is you're a speaker. You among other things.
Yes.
You're a hired keynote
I'm
speaker.
a hired keynote speaker, a hired speaking gun.
Yeah.
I just launched my website, marcygrossman.com. I talk about women's empowerment. I talk about leadership in uncertain times, and I talk about career transformation. I've also now just done this talk for the Jewish community, so I was hoping to go on the Borscht Belt after this stop. So that's my number one way of making money, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I'm also working with the Atlantic Council, which is a think tank in Washington, D.C., talking about and writing about Middle East peace and the role of women in peacemaking and peacekeeping. And I also am the chair of Celebrate Canada Worldwide, the organization that produces Canada Day in London on Trafalgar Square. And this year is going to be on June 30th, and we expect to attract 50,000 people to Trafalgar Square to celebrate all things Canadian this year.
Amazing. And so I will certainly recommend to organizations in Montreal, particularly Jewish organizations, to consider you as one of their guest speakers. And you're enjoying this type of life right now? It's a whole different change for you.
It's a whole different change. There's a lot of learning, and learning is painful, but I remember now. But it also provides a lot of growth, so that's been amazing. And any opportunity I have to come back to Montreal, where my heart will always belong, is a great opportunity for me. So yeah, I would love to come back.
Well, we'll tell people to go to your website to look you up. Thank you very much for your time, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, Mike. It's great to meet you finally.
Glad it only took 20 years.
Only 20 years.
That's it. All right. Marcy Grossman's been my guest.